Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to HR Repair. This is Hey Ray. This evening, we're going to do something that I think we're going to find kind of interesting, hopefully. We're going to do a little diagnostic teardown on this motor here. This thing comes out of this 2016 tore apart Chevrolet Silverado. It has, it's a GMC Sierra 1500. It is the 6.2 liter version. And this one's got quite a story. But I'll show you a little bit of what the story, and you might be able to pick it up there just by looking at the bottom side of the valve covers. The customer bought this truck, and he was on his way home from Chicago. He bought it in Chicago, which is about 3 hours north of us here. Some days I wish it was further, but that's another time, another place. And the customer stated that he started overheating, looked at his antifreeze level in his tank, and it was low. So he added antifreeze. Then the engine started misfiring, and within another, 10-15 miles, it was out of antifreeze again. We're going to put a reman engine back in this motor, or this truck. That's not why we're here, though. What we're going here to see where this engine was losing its coolant. And I think we'll find this interesting because there is lots of evidence to show that somebody has been in here before we got here. So hang on to your seats. We'll get this thing tore apart. Let's see if we can figure out where all of our antifreeze was going, because we drained approximately 4 gallons of antifreeze and a little bit of oil out of the crankcase, and the customer added approximately a total of 4 gallons of antifreeze. So this engine is toast. There's something that went wrong here. Let's dig into this and see if we can figure it out. Contact. A little bit of an explanation here why I think that there's lots of evidence to suggest that this engine had been tore down before. What I suspect happened is this engine probably had something go on happened to one of the lifters, and they pulled the heads to replace a lifter. That would be what I would guess happened, because these engines are very notorious for that. And the reason I say that there's evidence that supports this is because there's claw marks on all of our head bolts. And I don't know if you guys can see that necessarily very well, but let's bring you guys in here. And as you can see, looks like there's teeth marks on all of these. Come over on the other side, looks like the same thing. Now, you come in here, you can definitely see on that one there that there's evidence they had that apart. Same way with that. So, first mistake that they made, those look like bolts that have been reused. You're not supposed to reuse head bolts. The reason is because these head bolts are stretch bolts and they should not be reused. The other thing that concerns me is I have found on some of these head gaskets where there was some, it looked almost like grease or maybe some silicone of some kind. I couldn't really tell. And like in here, there was stuff that was smeared on it. So I suspect that somebody went and pulled these things apart, these heads off, to replace a lifter or do something with a lifter, put it back together, and I hope I'm wrong, but I suspect that we're going to find that they reuse the head gaskets. I don't know if there's any way to prove that, but that's where I'm leaning towards right now. I hope I'm wrong, but something doesn't feel right about this engine, and obviously something isn't right, because you should never get 4 gallon of oil or antifreeze into the oil. I mean, it was, and in 30 miles, 10 miles later, it's just as bad. It was smoking white. It was, I mean, there was just all kinds of things going wrong with this thing. So let's go ahead. We'll pull all these rocker arms off. I'm really not too concerned about keeping track of these and making sure they go back to the same place they came out of. No. Because this is a core, so we're not rebuilding this motor. No. Broke that one. Okay. Well, for one, this is too tight. Yep. These are way too tight. They should never be this tight. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to break all these loose, get them off of here. And then we're going to pull this head. There's so much milk on this. Milk. It's not milk, but this is terrible. If you were to want to rebuild this motor, you definitely want to make sure that you put all of these back in the same spot. But at this point, I don't even trust that these are back in the same spot they came out of, because it does look like they reused the head bolts. So at this point, I don't trust anything that has been done to this thing. It's just, yeah. And you know, we could have tore this engine apart. Some of you might wonder, why did we just recommend him a new engine without knowing what was wrong with it? Well, if you know anything about these motors, you'll know that I can't tell what size this is supposed to be, but water or antifreeze and oil do not mix. Not supposed to mix. They don't like each other. And if you do have them mix, it doesn't take very long at all to wipe out the bearings. Oh my. Well, this definitely is not right. So it doesn't take long to wipe out bearings, and this customer bought this for commercial use, and he doesn't want to, a year down the road, have a bad motor. Now, I cannot tell him and guarantee him that he's going to have a reliable motor if I happen to, the head bolts aren't even torqued. They're not near, they're not near right. They should all be similar to each other in torque. But I can't guarantee my work. You know, if I were to tear this engine down, we find that it's got a blown head gasket. That's all it's got. Okay, we can fix that. The problem is there's so much water in this thing that I could not guarantee that the the bearings are still good in this motor. And, you know, I'm sure, you know, we could I know we could take the bottom end apart on this thing, and we could find out if it's got good bearings in it or not. But at this point, let's get something to drain this fluid coming out of here. But at this point, we're going to be in it so deep, and it's just not, I mean, it's not feasible to try to fix this motor. So yeah, we're definitely not fixing this, but this is the reason why, because it just really is not it's not a good idea. And if you want something that's going to work, then you're going to want to put another motor in it, or if you've got the ability to do so, rebuild it. I don't have the ability to do so. So, I mean, I've got the knowledge, but not the ability with tools and all that. Oh my. But the way this is bolted down, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we find a cracked block, to be honest with you. There's something definitely ill here. It looks, wow. Looks like they put RTV on everything. This is just a mess. Oh my. Goodness sakes. Unnecessary. Okay. Well, not finding much there on the head or the head gasket yet. All right, so let's try the other side. Pull the other head off and let's see what we got there. These are definitely a lot looser. I think we've found the problem. That bolt is not coming out of the block. Wow. Okay, this says front, so that's on correctly. I'm not finding a smoking gun in the head gasket here. Let's go ahead and pull this head off of here. I've got an idea that I might know. I'm thinking I might find something here. Let me look. Yep. All right, so we found what is wrong, or what, well, we found a big problem. If you guys look here, if you remember, I had a head bolt that did not want to come out. And if you look here, we've got threads that are completely gone in this head bolt here. Now, this head bolt area. Here's the problem. The block is busted out right here. This is allowing antifreeze just willy-nilly down through into that hole. And I suspect that on down in this bolt hole, there is a crack going into the oil gallery. Now, it looks like there's a crack right there. That would allow antifreeze to get into the oil gallery. But that hole goes way down in there. I'm going to go ahead and use a little brake cleaner and clean that hole out. And let's see if we can find anything further down in there, because I suspect that the antifreeze is obviously around this hole. There's nothing stopping it from going down into the head bolt cavity. Now, the other thing that I am guessing that happened here is when this head bolt, by it being loose, and here's the other thing that I feel a little bit of foul play, I should say. If we look, there is like RTV or grease. I don't know why you would put grease on it, but there's something that they put on this head gasket, and I suspect they knew that they had cracked that block, and this was to try to get it to where they could at least get the thing out of their driveway. This is shady. I don't care if this is your truck, you did it in your own backyard. You don't do this kind of crap and then sell it and not tell the guy that you're selling it to. To me, this is real shady. This is not ethical at all. Well, here we can see some of the red smear there. I mean, it's all over. I don't know. It doesn't really look like RTV. But I'm wondering if it's, I mean, it feels like grease. But why would you put grease on it? I just don't know. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. If somebody knows that, let me know down in the comments below. But I definitely suspect foul play on this one. This is obviously a cover-up. This is not the way you do business. Well, there's a dowel pin that got shoved too far into the head. That never got lined up properly. And the fact that it's got grease smeared on the block, on the head, on the head gasket. Yeah, this just reeks of someone trying to get this thing out of his garage and down the road. And I have no clue what the my customer told the guy, because he asked if there's anything legally that can be done. I mean, I'm going to leave that up to the legal experts. I'm not a legal expert. But even if it's not illegal, it's not ethical. Like, this stuff is not ethical. Like, you had to know that you did something wrong to this motor. You had to know that this wasn't right. But yet you sold it as a good running, good looking. I mean, it does look okay as long as you don't get underneath. I mean, there's red dirt all over this thing. I don't know what, I mean, we don't have red dirt like this in Illinois. I don't know where this truck comes from. I don't know the history of this truck. It's a low mileage truck. It technically should be a good truck. But if you look at the bottom side of this cab, I mean, it is just plastered in red dirt. All of this can be cleaned. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know. I don't know the history on this truck, so I'm not gonna sit here and, act like I do. But I'm just frustrated, I guess, because this kind of stuff will get you one way or the other. The people that do this are oftentimes people that don't have a lot of money. It will come back to you. Being dishonest, it will come back to you. Just be honest. Just, I honestly have no problem if this guy would have sold this truck and said, look, I tried to do head gaskets or whatever he tried to do on this motor. He said, if he would have told the buyer, I did that. This engine is probably not a very good engine. I don't think it's done right. Something, I just don't, I can't guarantee it. Like, that's fine, because now I know. But to sell it as a perfectly good running truck, I don't know. I think this is pretty shady. We don't have a blown head or a cracked head gasket, or we don't have a cracked head. The head gasket does not look blown. Matter of fact, it doesn't look very old at all. Doesn't even hardly look like it was crimped. So here's what I think. I think that this head bolt is broke, and the reason we were misfiring is because we were blowing exhaust into our antifreeze. We may have been having antifreeze we could have had antifreeze getting into the cylinder here as well. I think there's a bigger problem down in that hole. So let me get some brake clean. We'll clean that out and see if we can get down in there a little better and see what's going on. Yeah. I mean, we could have even had, with this head bolt being loose, we probably were getting water or antifreeze passed through over here too. So yeah, this one's destroyed. This one's no good. What happened here? What happened here? I mean, this is above. This is actually above the point of where the threads are actually supposed to be, because this block should not have threads until you see how far down they're supposed to be. Like this head bolt should go that far in before it hits threads. And not only that, if you guys will look, there's wire wrapped around in here. That to me looks like an attempt at a helicoil, which means, yeah, okay, so these threads, I was trying to figure out what these threads were right here, but that's probably for the helicoil threads. And that right in there is a helicoil, which the helicoil is not going to hold the kind of threads or the kind of strength that this block needs to hold. Plus, where the threads were at, where the helicoil's at, is up here in the weaker part of the block, and that's why it broke it out, I'm pretty sure. So, unfortunately, this block is destroyed. This engine is toast. There's no repairing this, in my opinion. I mean, maybe some engine builder will tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think this one's repairable. It's probably not worth it. But this is cast aluminum. This is not cast iron. It's not magnetic. So this is cast aluminum, and yeah. I don't know for sure how this all went down, but somebody tried to fix it with a helicoil. it's exactly what happened. Somebody tried to fix it with a helicoil, didn't get the helicoil all the way down there. I mean, you can only get a helicoil in about that far. And then they tried to use that to hold the torque. Well, that's not going to hold. I mean, maybe they had it kind of tightened down, but this side was not near as tight as the other side. So let's go through this a little bit. Maybe whoever was working on this stripped out the threads either by over tightening it, or I don't know why, but they tried to put a helicoil in there to fix it, tighten it down, decided not to make it quite as tight. Well, the force broke the helicoil out, which broke the block because it's in a weaker part of the gusset there, and we had the head lift up off of the block and create a way for the antifreeze to travel from this passage here over to here, and along with, I think there's a crack right in there. It's kind of hard to tell because I couldn't really get down in there, but I think right there is where we're getting all of our coolant getting into the oil. Now we know it wasn't an oil cooler, because usually when you have an oil cooler fail, which this one here has an oil cooler, but it's in the radiator. So I didn't feel like we had an oil cooler fail, and I am almost positive we didn't, because here's the reason why. Oil pressure is at about, on these, is about 50 to 60 pounds of oil pressure. Your antifreeze at the most should never get above 15 pounds of pressure, because you have a 15-pound cap. Therefore, gets over 15 pounds of pressure, it's going to pop over to the top of the cap, and it's going to go into it's going to leak out. So you should never have over 15 pounds. Well, your oil pressure will override your antifreeze pressure. Therefore, it'll pump oil into the antifreeze system. Well, we were getting antifreeze into the oil and no oil into the antifreeze. So therefore, I knew it was not an oil cooler. And this would make sense because there's no oil pressure to this part right here. Yeah, that's, I don't know. You guys let me know down below what you guys thought of this diagnosis. Am I correct? Hopefully you guys found this helpful and interesting. Maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. Let me know that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it all. Y'all have a great one. I'm going to end this video right here. We'll catch you on the next one.